Hi, this is Dr. Caroline Wangari Vakaik, and today I am going to be doing a follow up on the last video that I did on friends and betrayal. And I talked about so many of my clients coming to me as a counselor and telling me how they had opened up to their friends about things that were happening in their life, and their friend went and betrayed them. And when I spoke last week, I promised you guys that I would do a live video. But I thought instead of doing a live video, because then there's so many interruptions and you can't, well, yeah, you definitely do reach people. But I figured if I said put a video out there, then people can always go back to it and look at it. And I'm following up with talking about myself, because a lot of people later came back to me and said, Caroline, you talked about how our friends betray us and how wrong that is, and I also talked about my best friend being a guy, and people wanted to know if that's what they should all do, or well, that's what most people should do. But it's everybody's preference, and it depends on the history that you have had. And why a best friend is somebody who was there for you when the whole world didn't think much of you. A best friend is somebody who you went through the same thing at the same time. A best friend is not just somebody who's going through the storms with you every day, but somebody who was with you and believed in you when no one else believed in you. Like you're ride or die person. Because when it comes to besties or best friends, my besties are girls. I have like besties that are just so awesome. We travel with them. I know they've got my back and I've got their back. But a best friend is somebody who and I know that those girls would be there for me if I ever needed to. If somebody betrayed my or distorted my character, they'll be there for them. But there's a very big difference, and I do know that a lot of people have come to talk to me and said, "Isn't your best friend supposed to be your wife? Isn't your best friend supposed to be your husband? Isn't your best friend supposed to be somebody that you're married to?" Not necessarily, guys. Not necessarily. And marriages are a great union, and marriages are people coming together to raise a family and be there for one another. It doesn't mean that they can be your bestie, but you can have a best friend who's out of your marriage. And I know like probably 80% of the people there whose best friend is somebody who's not their spouse. And a best friend is somebody who was really there for you when the world didn't believe in you. To me, that's how I gauge my best friend. Is somebody who you went through the same thing at the same time, who was there for you, who, when your character was being distorted, they were there for you. When you were drowning, they were there for you. And when you were even having issues with your spouse, they were there for you. And when you were having issues with work, things that some people have, things that they go through that they cannot bring home to their spouse to tell them about, because either their spouse is weaker than they are, or they don't want them to worry about it, or they don't want their spouse to judge that as they are going to bed, as they are having the weekend with their kids. So a lot of people have a best friend who is not somebody that they live with in the same house, and that's okay and that's healthy. Whether it's a girl or a boy or whatever, whoever your best friend is. And so there are people who are married and they're besties, but they're not best friends. And doesn't mean that they don't love each other. They're crazy about each other. They're married to each other, and we know that doesn't necessarily mean that just because people are married they're crazy about each other. We love each other, and it's an organization, and we come with an institution, and we're there for each other, and we can't live without each other. That was why we get married, and then we start raising a family. And then as you go to your work, or you go to, everybody goes to what they do during the day, you go there and you meet stuff, and you choose who you want to share those struggles that you have there with. And so whoever is your best friend, that's fine. If it's your spouse, good for you. If it's somebody else out there, good for you too. So that's what I wanted to mean. But that doesn't mean that I don't have lady friends. I have a lot of lady friends. I work in an organization that's mostly all women. So I have a lot of friends from working with the Mrs. American and working with the Mrs. World, and church friends, ladies who I do Bible studies with. I have lady friends that I love so much and who love me. But I was just talking about the betrayal of us as women, and that doesn't mean that I don't like women. I'm just saying that we do betray each other so much, because as sisters, we always talk about people coming to you to talk to you about the struggles that they're going through. So if somebody comes to you with such a struggle, I think it's only fair that you keep it to yourself. And so I think I have explained myself with the best friend thing, and also with the kind of friends that I keep and that I have. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is somebody came and told me, so Caroline, does that mean that if somebody comes and talks to you about somebody, then they're not, then you have to kind of wipe them away from your life? No. If you have a friend, I'll give you a scenario. You have a friend, they come and talk to you about just other people in general, talk about other people. And I've been there too, where somebody comes in and tells you about somebody else and, what happened to them and that person. And that's okay. That's not, they're not betraying anybody. They're just talking to you about what they have gone through in their life, and we've all shared that. We've all been there where you're either in a group or you're by yourself, and somebody comes and tells you about something that happened to them through somebody, and you're like, okay, you encourage them, you talk to them about it and how they should handle it or how they're feeling. What I was actually talking about, and I hope that people understand me, is when we're good friends, when we're like really good friends, when you're really good friends with somebody and you think that this is your really good friend, and you start opening up more to them because you feel so comfortable, they share their stories, so you share your stories. We've all had things that we've not shared with anybody else, and then you have that person who you meet and they're comfortable and you share your stories with them. And you tell this person, I hope I never hear this out there, because it's just, I feel so comfortable with you and I trust you. And then that person who you have told that goes out and shares that information with other people. That's what I meant by betrayal. That is total betrayal, and that is wrong. Or where they try to destroy you by saying, oh my God, you think they're like this? This is exactly who they are because it's what they have told me. That is betrayal. But if you're generally talking about people as we go through life, each one of us has been talked about, and but it's only worse if somebody comes and say, and that's wrong too. That's wrong to gossip about people, but each one of us has something that has rubbed somebody off the wrong way. So, I mean, even Jesus was here and he healed the sick and performed miracles, and they still talked about him. Let's not get paranoid. People will say such things. But when it comes to something that will hurt you because you shared it with somebody, I mean, it doesn't mean that if you hear people talking about you, you don't get hurt. We get hurt, you move on, But I know I've been talked about a lot, and I move on. But if it was betrayal, then it's something else. And in my speaking, and maybe that's just my personality or my character, but I'm very open about my life. My life is like an open book. It's like, I don't think there's anything somebody would come and say, oh, somebody told me this about you. I'll be like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. If you go to my social media, you'll see that I had talked about that a couple of years ago. Because I believe that if I talk about my life, if I talk about the things that have happened in my life, then it's not gossip if somebody talks about it. For example, if I come and talk maybe about my past marriage life and somebody says, oh, I didn't even know you went through well, it's on social media, I talked about it. And I remember when I was Mrs. Kenya and somebody came and was interviewing me for a magazine, and I talked about my ex-relationship, and somebody was like, oh my God, maybe you shouldn't talk about it because, you're a celebrity and this, and I said, no. That's more reason why I should talk about it, because if I don't tell my story the way it really happened, somebody is going to talk behind my back and really say bad things and sugarcoat it or salt coat it, because some people do salt coat and says it differently. So I talk about it. When I go talk about mental health, and everybody knows where I go and talk about the mental health, as a mother and as a wife, I have every reason to. And if you're following me, you know why I go talk about it. So if somebody goes behind my back and says, she's doing this and this and this, she should be a better mother, or she should be a better wife, or she should be a better citizen, or show these things, that's their own doing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, as parents in my culture, we have a saying that goes that anybody who has a child should never ever talk about anybody else's child. It is very wrong as a parent for you to go talking about somebody else's child, especially if that child is struggling with stuff. And you're not talking about them in a way like to help them. You are like almost making them look like they're a bad mother because ABC and D has happened to their child. It is very, very wrong because you don't know what your child will be tomorrow. I should be very, very empathetic as a parent. If somebody's child is struggling, don't look at it as if they're a bad parent, but try to encourage them as much as you can. Try to see how you can be of help to them, or talk to your friends who you think can be of help to them, either because you're a counselor or they know somebody who has gone through a similar thing. But when you go distorting somebody's character because of how their child is, somebody must be very wrong with you. And when I talked about that a lot of people do suffer from mental health, and that's why they do the things they do and we don't understand, I am not giving mental health a bad name. There's a lot of people who suffer from depression and mental illness, and they're great, wonderful people who can also keep secrets. But I'm just talking about those people either who refuse to seek help and go destroying other people's character. I'm talking about those people who have used this as an excuse to go gossiping about other people, and it's always like, oh, don't worry about them, they suffer from depression, mental illness, and they can say things like that. I do believe these people who suffer from mental illness and depression and who will not go out there talking about people in such a bad manner. So that's not an excuse. I think that it is wrong in every level. And as women, we are supposed to uplift each other. And the other thing I also touched on, I'm kind of looking at the questions that some of you put to me after I did the video on the betrayal thing. And somebody said that, what if you have somebody who comes to you and, okay, so if you have somebody, this is how I do it myself. Today I'm talking about myself, not talking about as a counselor who other people have come to me. If I meet somebody and they start telling me about their friends in a way, well, yeah, somebody can, I've talked to people about things that happen in my life, but if somebody comes to you and you notice that every time they're always saying something bad about their friends, these are their friends, just be very careful, because one day they'll be talking about you to those same people. I always look at it as a signal where I'm like, I don't know here about this friendship, but I'm just going to be really cautious. I think that it is wrong. It is very wrong to do that. Those people, you better just run away from them. And I did personally have a friend who was like that, and they always said things about their friends, and I wish that I had like really said something then, because I didn't. And then it turned out to be me who was now the victim, and yeah, I was like, cut that short. Assumptions are wrong. Most of us have been victim of assumptions. I have been a victim of assumption, and it's not good, it's not clean, it's not fair, but I can take it. I'm a big girl, I can take it. But assumptions are wrong. Assumptions are when you assume what somebody means. Assumptions are when you assume what somebody does and you don't even know it. You see them maybe on social media, or you see them at church, you see them at the mall, you see them outside in their yard or whatever, and you assume so many things and create a story out of that. It is so wrong. But again, assumptions are done by people who are either bullies, who have a low inferiority complex, who don't really think highly of themselves. And the only way they can uplift themselves or make them feel good is by making somebody look bad. We've all worked with people like that. They make you look bad for them to look good, and that's not good. My light cannot shine so much bright that it dims yours. No. It's like the stars. They're all there. They're all shining. We all can shine out there. So don't try to dim somebody's light to make yours brighter. That is wrong. So assumptions can be really bad and bad. Uh, I think those are the only questions that I had, and I think I have explained myself with when I was talking about best friends and people betraying you, and everybody has a right to choose who their best friend is. There are people whose best friend is their spouse. Good for you. There's people whose best friend is somebody who they work with. There's people whose best friend is another family member. Your best friend can be anybody. My best friend is somebody who I know will never, ever go behind me and use what I have told them to judge my character. That's what I mean. And a best friend is somebody who has been there for you when the whole world didn't see you for who you are. A best friend is somebody who encourages you every day to be better than you are, who coaches you, who mentors you on your job and your careers and the things that you're planning to do. They're definitely there for you. And sometimes it's, and that's just me, but I think that sometimes it's healthy to have a best friend outside of the home, because depending on the kind of relationship you have with your we all are in a marriage because somebody loved us enough and they just couldn't stay a day without us, so they brought us into their house to live with, and we said yes because we couldn't also live without them. But sometimes there's so many things that people struggle with that they don't want to bring to the home because they don't want to burden somebody who they love and they live with the things that are going on. And so they choose to have somebody out there who they can talk to and just come home and talk to their spouse about simpler problems or not too much of a bigger issue. So it's up to you and the kind of relationship you're in and who you choose to be your best friend. But if you have these assumptions that your best friend has to be your spouse, then again, good for you, but don't judge other people whose best friend is not their spouse. Everybody has a growth. Everybody has a way that they need to handle what happens in their life. And some people will have a best friend who is not somebody in the home because what they're probably talking about is what is happening in the home. So don't judge them. Just be go out there and love and respect. And again, I talk a lot about human behavior because that's my degrees are in human behavior, with a focus definitely on how mental health affects the people that live around such people. So it's been fun talking to all of you, and so keep shooting those questions, and that gives me an idea on the topics that I have to talk on the next time. So thank you. Bye.